Hello, I am Dr. Jennifer Tanner. I am the founder of Run Well. Today we are going to speak a little bit about digestive health, and we are bringing back Bonnie Flemington. Hi, Bonnie.
Hi, Jen. How are you?
I am fantastic. It's so nice to have you on again today. So for those of you who have not heard Bonnie before, she is one of our in-house nutritionists per se. So for Bonnie, her bio, really interesting. Bonnie's a certified nutritionist and speaker. She runs online and corporate wellness programs and works with individual clients specializing in strategies for balancing weight, hormones, reducing inflammation, and increasing energy. Bonnie's great passion is in creating a personalized system for her clients so they know exactly what foods, habits, and supplements they need to achieve greater outcomes. So Bonnie's going to be talking about improving your digestion to improve your performance. I'm not sure if all of us put those connections together, but digestion, in my opinion, is one of the powerhouses of your entire body. So really important to be focusing on that if we want to run better. So Bonnie, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you, Jen, for that very kind introduction. I am very passionate about digestion because it impacts really, I think, everything in your body. That's really where that all health starts in the gut phrase that many of us have heard comes from, because it can create problems of inflammation if things are not going well, and result in other problems around the body, but it can also be your source of great energy, stamina, and mood. So we'll talk about a few things today. One is about how our gut and brain are very tightly connected.
Okay.
So really important there to understand how that works. We'll talk a little bit about how digestive issues manifest particularly in runners.
Okay.
That's what we all want to know. And then finally, I will be talking about food as medicine. I love thinking about food in this way, that we can really use it to our advantage. And before I was studying nutrition, I really didn't make the connection between the food I was eating and how I was feeling. But that connection, and many of us don't, that connection is really important. So I'll talk about foods both for every day as well as for race day. And at the end, I have a really great freebie download that people can access as well.
Wonderful. So do you find, like, in your nutrition practice, do you find digestive concerns are common?
Yes, they aren't always the reason that people come to work with me. They often will come to me for their joint pain or arthritis, or perhaps for weight management. But really, we very often have to go back and work on gut health. And in a way, sometimes people have digestive issues that they don't even realize. They may be ignoring them, or they think perhaps this is common and not unusual. But just because something is common doesn't make it optimal or normal.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of illnesses are common, but it's definitely not normal. Any sort of symptom is your body's way of telling you something is wrong. So good point, Bonnie.
Yep. So we all have to pay attention. We can't kind of blow something off because we know a few other people that have it, because
Yeah.
definitely something you shouldn't have to live with.
All right. So Bonnie has some great slides that she's prepared for us. So Bonnie, you want to pull those up?
Yes, absolutely. So, 1 second here. Let's share here. Yep. All right. Can you see them?
I can see it. Yeah.
Fantastic. All right. So we're going to talk about improving digestion to improve our performance. And the first thing I really want to talk about here is to, let me move these slides forward. Here we are, our gut-brain connection.
Oh, I love this picture.
It really tells the story. A picture tells 1,000 words, so that is why I have some slides here today. This one, we don't often realize that what's going on in our digestion can really be triggered by things that are going on in our mind, but it can also work the other way, and things that may be out of balance in our digestive tract may actually be creating some problems in our mood. So I'll just explain a little bit about how this works. So how our brain impacts our gut health is, I'll use the example of stress, for instance. When we are feeling stressed, our body is triggering a fight or flight type response and putting all of our energy into our muscles so that we can react to the stressor. And it may be something happening on race day, it could be happening at another time. So what happens here is now our resources and energy are taken away from our digestion. We have reduced stomach acid being produced, which is much needed in the stomach to start to break down our foods. So now we have less food breakdown. So then our food can end up sitting there for a little bit. We can experience some bloating, gas, perhaps some heartburn as a result of that. And also without stomach acid, we are less able to withstand some accidental sort of bacteria or pathogens that we might be ingesting along with our food that we normally our body just handles, but now we're not able to handle that as well, and can create some illnesses some digestive illnesses that are create discomfort for us. So that is one way that this is connected. The opposite way is we can have problems originating in our digestion that then impact our mood. So an example here might be excess sugar in the diet, or perhaps certain medications, food sensitivities, other infections that are creating inflammation in our gut or disrupting the microbiome. And then that inflammation then can travel throughout the body to the brain and impact our ability to have that mental stamina that we need to perform. So that is how it can work the opposite way.
Okay. Really, really interesting. Like, I wonder how many of you out there thought that your gut has such a huge impact on your brain functioning.
No, not commonly known.
Yeah.
So how does this manifest particularly in runners? So GI problems are particularly common in endurance runners because during the exercise, the body's resources to the digestive tract are limited because, of course, they're being directed to our working muscles. Common symptoms like cramping, nausea, bloating, heartburn can both reduce your performance and also your recovery, because now our attention and energy are being devoted to our discomfort rather than to our task at hand, our running. So this is how we commonly see this manifesting in runners.
And I would say it's quite common. I do have quite a lot of patients who have digestive upset of varying degrees. And a lot of them are endurance runners. And I find that with their run, they're either running from porta potty to porta potty, and they have it planned in their minds. They know how far it is from one pit stop to the next. And it kind of takes away from their experience, and it creates a lot of anxiety. And for some of them, they won't enter those longer runs because they're worried, how far can I make it to the next bathroom, per se. So really important that it can, like you said, how it can affect the people, but it can also affect that enjoyment and the anxiety kind of around the event.
Yes, which is a shame because there are strategies that we can use.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'll go into next, really ways that we can use food, potentially supplements, but I'm going to focus on the food, of course, both for our everyday eating and meals, and then also for race day,
Okay.
and which will be very different. Well, in some cases, different. So our foods, food as medicine. I love that phrase, food as medicine, because we should think of it that way. It's, because it really can help to support or harm our health. But ways we can use it to support our digestion. So for every day, I would encourage everyone to eat more bitter foods. This is a list I have put together. Bitter foods are something we're not necessarily attracted to. With all the processed foods we have available to us now, we have become less and less attracted to that bitter taste. These are a few examples of some bitter foods, but others are beet greens or chard, rocket, rapini, watercress, some of these things that we don't necessarily think to have every day, maybe more unusual foods. But they can really help to stimulate our body's production of stomach acid. So we are much better able to break down our food. Our digestion in general is stronger.
Wonderful. Yeah, I find North Americans we are generally attracted to sugar and salt, and we kind of skip this category altogether.
Right. It would be great to think of bitter foods as a food group, if you could think of it that way a little bit. Great to include something in your in each meal if you can. That's a little bit bitter. Now, on that same note, of course, lemon and apple cider vinegar and a bit of water before meals will also support your body's the strength of your stomach's ability to produce enough stomach acid to break down your food. And that ACV there on the slide is apple cider vinegar, in case you don't know. Even a teaspoon to a tablespoon and a bit of water about 15 minutes before your meal.
Okay.
So that your stomach has some time to help to prepare for the meal that you're about to have. So that can be really, really helpful.
Mm-hmm.
In addition, limiting our sugars and refined starches. These foods tend to disrupt our gut microbiome. They are often full of other processed food chemicals. We tend to react, our bodies do tend to react with inflammation to these types of foods. And I will speak a little bit differently about them on the next slide when I'm talking about race day and the need for energy. But on our everyday, when we're not, it's not race day or we're not about to go exercise, these types of foods can really trigger a spike and then crash in energy. And we create a blood sugar roller coaster. It may create fatigue and cravings. It can, in the spike in energy, it can create some anxiety. There's a lot of issues around eating sugars and starches in your everyday. You want to limit those as much as you can.
Okay, so that could be one of the causes for, like, just say somebody has a really horrible run, there isn't a lot of energy going into it. Could it be because of the sugar consumption prior to their run?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, perhaps it's not really timed well because it's suddenly when you eat something very sugary, and it doesn't have to be sweet. It could be white flour too, so it doesn't have to taste sweet.
Okay.
Creates that spike, and then insulin, if you're not right in the middle of using it, insulin comes out and wants to store it because it's too much for the body, and now you've got your crash. And if that's the point that you are trying to get your performance, then absolutely.
Okay.
Another great group of foods that I would love everyone to include on their everyday is prebiotic foods. We often talk about probiotics, but not everyone knows what prebiotics are. And essentially they are fiber, great food for the probiotics, and to help us maintain the good gut bacteria in there. Jerusalem artichoke is an example that I have given here, but there's lots of great fiber in fruits and vegetables. Another type of fiber called resistant starch is in raw oats. If you want to soak those maybe the night before and have them in the morning, cooked and cooled potatoes, so some potato salad, legumes, or other great sources of fiber. So this is food for our good gut bacteria.
So interesting. Fruits and vegetables are considered a fiber source.
Yes.
Yeah, I think when people say Like if their doctor says, hey, you need more fiber, we think like Metamucil or bread.
Absolutely. The
Yeah,
first thing people think of often is grains, or you're right, Metamucil. But you can use your fruits and vegetables as well, for sure.
great.
And then the couple supplements that may be needed if you can't manage your digestion with food and you're still having issues, I would encourage you to work with a practitioner and make sure you're getting the enzymes, potentially probiotics that you might need help with. There's many strains of probiotics, lots of different ingredients and different digestive enzyme supplements. So you'll want to make sure that you get the forms that are right for you and your symptoms.
Okay.
Okay, so for race day, our food is medicine for race day. The main thing really is to practice the timing of eating to see what works for you. A lot of people will have their larger meal anywhere between 2 and 4 hours before their race, but that, again, the exact timing is unique. This is not a day to try new foods, definitely. This is a day to try something you know your stomach works well with. Also, certain things can be irritating. Some pain medications, potentially high fructose foods, can be really irritating to your digestive tract, so you want to try and avoid those if you can. And as I mentioned on the last slide, I said avoid those sugars and starches. You may need to have something more refined very close to your race time, because you are now, if you're ingesting something that's going to get absorbed quickly, like a refined sugar or starch, that can actually be beneficial if it's exactly when you need it. It may be even during the race. If you're a real endurance runner, it may be something like the Endurance Tap type of supplement that you're taking with you that works well. That's not something I would recommend for your everyday, but it might work well to get you through your race day.
Yeah, I find with the fats and proteins that people will generally recommend very little amounts right before the race. And one reason is they require a lot of digestive support to process them. And then if you're racing, you don't want your resources going directed towards your digestion. You want them to be going towards your muscles and blood flow during that time. So it's almost the time to think opposite.
Exactly. It is really opposite. Like those fats, protein, and fiber is what you want when it's your everyday, because that is going to keep you full, because now your body's working for a longer period of time to digest. But on race day, you don't want that, because as we mentioned, your energy is going to your muscles. Your body may be ignoring your digestion completely, and that is what then creates the cramping and bloating, because now you've got this fat, protein, and fiber sitting in there.
Okay.
So yes, it is the opposite here. So race day can be quite different.
Okay, good to know.
And you might want something, some people like more liquid nutrition, so perhaps a smoothie in the morning for certain people might work better.
Okay.
Than other solid foods. The L-glutamine is the supplement that I mentioned here. It's mainly for recovery and doesn't necessarily need to be used ongoing. Again, I would work with a practitioner and make sure that you're getting exactly what you need in that respect. But that may help to support your recovery after a race.
So would the L-glutamine support recovery from a digestive perspective or a musculoskeletal perspective?
Well, it's mainly thought about on the gut lining, but it really can, but that's part of your whole recovery process too. So it may just make you feel better.
Okay. So both, I guess, right?
Right.
Yeah. Okay. Wonderful, Bonnie. This has been fantastic. I think really practical tips that people can implement. And I love that you've separated it from everyday use into race day use, because as we just discovered, very different.
Very different, exactly. I mean, we've all probably had, anyone who's been near the start line has probably had the experience of, oops, I got to run to the bathroom. Your body doesn't want to deal with digestion when it's about to race.
Yeah, and it always seems like it happens like right before the gun's going to go off. So Bonnie, you have a special bonus for us. Tell us about that.
Yes, I do. So I have a special sugar-free ebook and guide that will help you on those everyday meal planning, how to get sugar out of your diet or reduce it without feeling deprived. The recipes are great. The guide just explains in a little bit more detail what we've talked about sugar and how it can impact spike and crashes in energy, and lots of great recipes in there. And so it's a full 5-day meal plan with all the recipes, shopping list, but also information as well.
Oh, Bonnie, that sounds so useful. Thank you for putting that together.
Oh, you're more than welcome.
So if somebody is looking to find you, get more information, where can they find you?
Well, I am, you can always find me at my website at bonnieflemington.com. I am active on Facebook, also Bonnie Flemington, and on Instagram as well, same Bonnie Flemington.
Okay, wonderful. So just to recap a few things that Bonnie had covered here, that gut-brain connection is really important. I know with my patients, I often start treatment at the gut. Sometimes it doesn't make sense to everybody, but like Bonnie just explained, it's kind of the gateway to the rest of your body, and it does impact the way that we think and how we feel and how well we can run. So a few of the things that she mentioned, that if that gut functioning is not adequate, it can impact our stomach acid. It can allow those outside pathogens to now have access to our system, and definitely can promote that inflammatory load. And running is definitely an impact inflammatory sport.
Yes.
So any ways that we can reduce that inflammatory load. And from a dietary perspective, we're looking at getting in some of those bitters. She did mention breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So rethink those breakfasts. It doesn't have to be brown.
Right. Exactly.
Having a spoon of apple cider vinegar before those meals to encourage the stomach production, reducing that refined sugar load, and getting in some of those prebiotics to help support the probiotic count. Looking at a digestive enzyme to help deal with some of the symptoms you might be feeling, and then an L-glutamine to help from more that repair and recovery perspective. She also mentioned, eat your bigger meal about 2 to 4 hours before that run. You don't want to be digesting while you're running. So those resources will be readily available if you wait that 2 to 4 hour window, and do a little experimenting, but not on race day.
Exactly. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So we will have access to Bonnie's ebook and those recipes for everybody to click through and enjoy the benefits of that.
Great.
But thank you, Bonnie, for being on today. It's always lovely having you.
Thanks for having me, Jen.
Yeah. All right. Bye, everyone.
Bye.